Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We're going to start off by taking a look at the latest drought monitor released yesterday on the 18th. And as we look at this map, quite a few things have changed for part of the southern region over the last couple of weeks here. And let's just take a look at that change map for the last week. We've seen the drought expand here in parts of the south central plains, primarily due to the incredibly strong winds which we've been reporting on that have been racing through this area. And they've been coming kind of more out of the south and southwest, which means they've been bringing in some very, very dry conditions and some high evapotranspiration rates. Now, why we start off looking at the drought monitors, because the next, I'll call it 5 to 15 days in terms of precipitation is going to be critical to seeing how we go into our early summer or midsummer, I guess we could say, weather patterns here. So when we look back over the last 72 hours, there have been, over the last 3 days, some regions that have been getting quite a bit of thunderstorm activity, specifically in parts of Texas. And then there's been a few regions right in through here where there's been some more thunderstorm activity. And then, of course, that upper level low that when you put it all together over the last 8 days, dumped in some places in North Carolina upwards of 8 to 10 inches of rainfall. So the rain that you see right in through here is a part of a slow-moving front that is just trying to work its way across the United States. And it's part of two different systems that are coming through that are going to increase our precipitation chances in the near term. I want to talk first about the possibility of some severe weather in the area, and then we're going to look at this overall flow pattern. In the day today, on the 19th, we're going to be watching the tail end of that front right here in parts of Texas and Oklahoma for giving us chances for severe weather. You can almost see on Saturday where the front is going to be lingering right in through the same area. And then that's what's really going to just give us another chance of having strong to severe storms on Saturday as well. And then as we get into the day on Sunday, this is actually going to be the time where the second pulse comes through, trying to move the whole thing out. And the very northern part of our southern region here still dealing with the chances for severe weather as well. Notice in this area, though, in all 3 days, we really have a lack of severe weather activity. You can almost see the flow in each of the next 3 days kind of circling around higher atmospheric pressure that will be sitting over parts of the south, from Louisiana all the way over to Georgia. Now, you could still get pop-up storms in that area just on the heating of the day, but the likelihood is going down. But if we look at how the next two systems combined, this map shows you accumulated precipitation from the WPC through the next 7 days. And if I had an area that I'm concerned about where the model's probably overestimating rainfall, it's inside the region that I just circled here. Now, just remember when you look at my color bar, anything that's outside of, I'll just kind of outline it here, this shading, see I put a hard line on it right there, that's going to be less than a ½ inch. So, over here, we're less than a ½ inch. I put another contour at 1.5 inches. So it kind of gives us this idea of where we have the rains that come through and make things wet for a little while and those things that do actually soak in. That's my goal with this. So take a look at your region, take a look at this map, and why don't we just compare it quickly to what normal is going to be. So you can see that across this part of our southern region, things are looking quite wet. We need to be talking about what's coming out here up along the east coast of Mexico into the Gulf Coast of Texas that possibly might be of tropical origins as we move forward. But both of the combined front here and then the second wave that comes sneaking through increased precipitation chances in this area over the next 7 days. Let's break it down into two 5-day chunks, and we're going to look at two different models. What I've got for you first here is the ECMWF, and on the left we have precipitation compared to normal, and on the right we're looking at total precipitation. So there are certainly some similarities, but you do notice that this model is also calling for the overall lack of rainfall inside that area we just drew the oval here. Now you can also see that possibly parts of central Texas into this area may be missing out because the tail end of the front lingers here more in Oklahoma than it does in Texas. But do notice what we see right in through here. We're going to talk about that more in just a few moments, all right? GFS, what is it calling for? Well, it's very similar in the pattern in through this area. In fact, it's quite a bit wetter. And you can also see the drier conditions that it is painting across that section of the south. So, we're a bit more consistent. Where we're inconsistent, look, if I go back here, is the rains that are going to be coming across this part of our southern region. So you can see the GFS is much wetter in there than the European, and that's because the GFS wants to let that frontal boundary from the second system linger across that area into midweek next week. Now, I only want to show you the European when we look out here day 5 through day 10. So that's what this is. This goes all the way out to the evening of the 28th. And we start to see this. Now, this could be some critical rainfall that shows up here, and you're only looking at anomalies, so this would be difference from normal. But it's not only in the operational run, which is the one over here, but in the ensemble as well. This, remember, the European, we run it 51 times and combine all of that to give you an average, which is what we see there. So it looks as though something is going to be coming out of the tropics here, running along the Gulf Coast, and we got to stop and diagnose what might be happening here. In the upper levels of the atmosphere, looking out over that 5 to 10 day time period, we know that the tropics are painting a picture where there's going to be descending motion here and rising motion there. So that basically says the upper levels of the atmosphere will be conducive to, more tropical thunderstorm activity, not only down here in the Caribbean, getting into Central America, and then in this side in the Pacific, but you can see that this extends up here into the Gulf of Mexico. So we at least know that the atmosphere is not being suppressed in the upper levels of the flow here. And we notice as we go out here to next Saturday that the broader area of higher atmospheric pressure still sits off the coast. And we get flow around it something like this. Now you do notice this kind of, yellowish shading that's in here. That would represent slightly higher than normal pressure. So this could enhance the flow on the back side of this, because we know that the flow comes around clockwise around these high pressure cells. And at the same time, because of a trough that comes sweeping through, I'll show it in a few moments, we're going to have lower pressure here. So it's going to invite flow like this. And that could concentrate the heavier rainfall in this particular area, which is what we just saw. Now, one thing to be thinking about, since we're talking more about the tropics, is this map. And I just want to continue on a discussion that we had over the last couple of days. Look off the coast of Africa. All of this that you see in through here, this is all dust, and it will be moving over in this direction with time. If that Saharan dust continues like that throughout our tropical season, it will really work hard on reducing the risk of tropical cyclones. But it has to be there at the right time to really do that, and it has a biggest impact on the storms that are born right here off the coast of Africa. So I just want to put that bug in your ear as we think about this longer term. Okay, what about day 10? At that time period, you see the ridge that builds up into the Gulf of Alaska? It kicks off this trough into this area. So remember, at the surface during this time, we had a bit of high pressure there, and the flow was going around. So this is the trough that comes sweeping through, and it's important to see that because this tells me that the pattern doesn't get blocked up. But as I look all the way out to day 15, I'm going to be honest with you, and we talked about this in the forecast video on Wednesday and again on Thursday. This pattern where higher pressure sitting here is almost identical to climatology. And it's one where, because the jet stream has retreated a bit north, much of the southern region, in fact, much of the U.S. is going to be seeing above average temperatures. I think we should talk about that as we finish up this video. So let's step through the next 7 days, looking day by day at the high temperatures. Those are in the numbers, and the departure from normal, that would be in the color coding. So we see today on Friday, again, a lot of low to mid 90s down here through parts of Texas. Cooler weather still lingering here over in parts of the southeast, getting up to the Carolinas. But basically from Dallas all the way up to the Great Lakes, there's a stripe out ahead of that front. The front's right here, that it's going to be warm. As we play this forward, we get immediately into the day here on Saturday. And again, we see a pretty similar picture overall in our temperature pattern. For Sunday, the heat really builds back into western Texas and a lot of 90s across our southern region. But watch what happens as the second system gets here on Monday. Ready? Going into Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. See, we got I don't want to call it cool. It's still upper 80s, mid to upper 80s, but it's cooler than normal for us this time of year with that next trough coming through, while triple-digit heat goes back over to the Central Valley of California. So if we go from here into the 6 to 10 day time period, we see the lingering effect of that second system coming in. See it? Both models picking up on that in the 6 to 10 day. But in the 11 to 15, once again, remember that trough that comes in? I see broad ridging overall. I see the heights rising. I see the jet stream pulling to the north. And therefore, even though you see near average temperatures in here, I think we're going to be talking a lot about 90s across our southern region with triple-digit heat that's going to come into this area. That seems to be the name of the game here for parts of New Mexico and Texas. Last couple of things to show you. Let's go out to July 3rd through the 10th. The model's been very consistent with the warm North America growing regions over that time period, and that includes our southern region. I will make the case that I do not think that the model has any idea what the precipitation is going to do. What will be critical for us in the southern region is to see what comes out of the tropics and also where the Bermuda high sits. Currently, our longer range forecast wants to keep the Bermuda high over Bermuda or even east of there, which means even though you start to see dry conditions showing up in here, I don't see this. I see this more as noise in the model than I do see it as consistently calling for an area to be dry. And remember, we're just barely on the drier side of the color bar here. So what we have to watch out for is anything that will shut down the Gulf of Mexico, and that will be done due to high pressure sitting there. So you want to watch that with me to see if it evolves in the month of July. And we'll kind of put together all the pieces that could make that happen and report back to you, okay? I really appreciate your attention this week. It was a long week for us, and I really enjoy the fact that you guys use these videos to help plan operations, all right? Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks.